European Americans.
European American.
European American.
European American.
European American.
European Americans.
European Americans.
European Americans.
European Americans.
European American.
Look what I started, guys. I am so happy that more and more people are familiarizing themselves with the term European American. If you guys are wondering, I'm the one that started this trend. I posted a video about European Americans the other day and the whole trend has gone viral. This is something that needs to be normalized. I have been calling them European Americans for years. And before you guys get mad, European American is a legitimate term. Very clearly states that European Americans are people who descend from the first European settlers. They got so comfortable with calling everybody African American, Asian American, Mexican American, Native American. Okay, you're European American. It's your turn. So to everybody watching, start using this term from now on, European American. This needs to be normalized. This needs to be everywhere. This needs to be well known. European Americans hate being called European American. So much so that they try to come up with any justification and excuse to not be called European American. Our friend Donna is saying that she is not European American, that she considers herself an Irish Italian American, that her family is from Italy and Ireland. Now look, Donna, I know that the US educational system is not the best, especially when it comes to geography, but I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, Donna. Both Ireland and Italy are in Europe. Crazy, right? So that would make you 100% European American. I love how European Americans genuinely believe that they are just Americans, that everyone else is something hyphen American, and that they are the only true Americans.
If you haven't heard the term European American, you gotta watch this video. In some of my recent posts, I've been seeing this comment of like European American to describe like Americans that are European descent, like for example, similar to Mexican American, Asian American, African American, right? European American. Why don't people that are American of European descent call themselves European American? It's interesting, right? I don't know if I agree or not, but it just makes you think like it should be that way if it's fair. I guess it's just interesting that we feel the need to differentiate minorities, right? So for example, when Italians came over, like, oh, they're Italian American. When the Irish came over, oh, they're Irish American. Now, once they've been here for a few generations, they've been assimilated into society, they just become Americans. But also they're white. So it's a totally different dynamic. People that are of color go through a completely different experience. And I think in today's world, that's what these words are used for. They're used to say like, oh, no, they're not American, they're Mexican American. It's like, oh, no, they're African American. Because the reality is that the only true Americans are the Native Americans. They were the OGs, the people that were here before everybody else. And then Europeans came and conquered. So it's just something to think about.
Who are European Americans? Kinda sounds offensive to me. Well, Joey, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I know you think that you're just American, and I get that, colonizer mentality. But I'm gonna let you in on a secret, Joey. But a European American is you. You're a European American. I mean, you guys call everybody else African American, Asian American, Mexican American, Native American, which are the real Americans, by the way. And European Americans are always bragging, oh yeah, well, I'm part Polish, I'm part Irish, I'm part German, I'm 1/16th Cherokee. So you're European American. Your ancestors all come from Europe. You guys love claiming Italian American, Irish American, etc., but get mad when somebody calls you European American? What? Make it make sense. Why are European Americans so scared of culture? Why are you guys so scared and terrified of culture? I don't get it. People from Ireland are really cool. Ireland has some great culture. So does Italy. So does Poland. Come on, man.
European Americans. I hope you're having a lovely Sunday. Just big shout out to everyone who's realised that this should be a classification. For the European Americans who don't like this, you guys started the classifications and calling people Native Americans, African Americans, whatever titles you've used in the past, you reap what you sow. You're European Americans. Where did your ancestors come from? If you're not a Native American and you're not from Latin America, then you're European American. European American has been a term that's been used since 1977. If you look at Wikipedia, you can see that. This was due to the fact that there were so many different hyphenated names and these hyphenated names are being used as racial slurs. So, such, African American, Asian American, European American, Hispanic American, Middle Eastern American, Native American, Pacific Island American. All of these terms were created to try and identify which region people was from. Now, as you can see, I used European American in that because this was a term that has been used in the past, and it's only now that European Americans that have got a problem because they don't want to be classified. They're American.
I find it a bit unfortunate that there are many people in America, but especially outside of the United States of America, who might be duped to believe that America has always been a white people's land. Because the truth is far from it. America has never been a white people's land. There are historical events and happenings that might have led America becoming a white majority country currently and in a few years back, but it doesn't make them way American than anybody else, especially now that there are natives of that land still in that country. But what really upholds this kind of misinformation is the fact that we don't talk about it enough. Because how many times do you hear people being described as European Americans? But you will often hear people talk about African Americans or Black Americans, Latino Americans, and Asian Americans. You will hear those terms all of the time, but you don't get to hear and interact with the term European American very much. They'd rather use white American, But let's talk about the truth. And I also came across a very fascinating clip of an older, white American couple boldly telling the truth, something that many white people in America currently would not want to admit, especially white people. And they say that America is becoming a white minority country and nothing can stop that, And that's obvious. We know that in about 20 years' time, white Americans will become a minority, And what sticks with me here is that America has never been a white people's country. It was taken, invaded, and rebranded to make it look like it is a white people's place, just like many other places, of course, that Europeans forced themselves into, And the fear some racists have today is really the fear of facing the very history that they created themselves. So before we break this down, let me share this clip with you, and then at the end, I'll give a good commentary to it.
I want to say like 2009, 2010, I go over to my mom's house, and my stepdad is, of course, spending his 16 hours a day watching Fox News in the living room, just going out of his way to try to be mad about things that he doesn't understand. And he's like, did you know that by the year, 2035, minorities will outnumber us in this country? And, without any sort of, pause or hesitation, I just simply replied, well, then they won't be minorities anymore. And he's like, yes, they will. And it was like, first and foremost, he couldn't even wrap his head around the ridiculousness of the language. But I remembered asking him, like, are you mad about Black and brown folks outnumbering us because you're afraid that they'll treat you like you treated them? And when you want to talk about an angry, country-ass, 75-year-old man that had never been, like, actually asked a real question that forced him into one of those corners, he just turned into a toddler. Well, you and the white man built this country, and it's like, I really think that my sort of genuine reactive, answer to his query, I think it struck a nerve. It's the reason that toxic straight men feel uncomfortable around gay men, because they're afraid that the gay men will treat them like women. Like, that is what they're not mad at people for just existing. They're mad at what might happen to them should the shoe be on the other foot. And I'm here for it.
What did you just say? I said that one of the big demographic things that's moving our country right now is that the United States is moving from being a majority white population to a minority white population.
Mm-hmm.
They'll still be the largest minority
Yeah.
in the United States, but
And how does that make you feel as white people?
It doesn't bother us at all, but we know that it bothers some white people.
Why do you think it bothers some white people?
There's a fear. There's a fear. They've bought into the idea that white is superior, so that's the white supremacy part. They bought into the narrative, the nonsense that this country was founded on white principles, ignoring the Native American influence and the Latino influence that's always been here, and negating the harm of the black influence that was, brought in by slavery.
Yeah.
And you ignore all of those things. You conveniently create this narrative in your mind that the U.S., the Constitution, the Revolutionary War, all of that was white people.
Mm-hmm.
And negating the immigrant part of it, negating the immigrants that continued to come over. And white is not a culture. It's just the color of a skin that happens to be, for people in the North, because we don't have that evolutionary growth.
Not even that, because white, Irish immigrants and Italian immigrants didn't even used to be considered white.
Right.
So
yes.
it's always
my
been.
Grandparents on my dad's side were either immigrants or born and raised in the Boston area. In Boston, back at the turn of the previous century, the 19th century, the 18th to 19th to 20th century. It was very diverse in Boston, extremely diverse, and not a happy diversity, right?
Yeah.
They were, and most of those cultures, because I will say cultures, were fighting against each other.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was English, UK, Welsh, and my grandmother was Swedish, and that wasn't really looked at positively at the time.
Yeah, and Grandma Haglund was born in Sweden, right?
Born in Sweden, came over here around 2 or 3 with her
and that's who
family.
you're named after, right?
Yes.
Linnea. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there were segments of each of those cultures that were fighting. I'm sure there were segments that were probably getting along well, but still. And just like now, there are big segments of population that are making this transition with, and there are some that are, who knows what their motivations are. I'm sure it varies person to person to the extent of whatever, but I got to think that there's some type of subconscious, maybe guilt feelings, some worry that what we did to the Native Americans, the black population, is that they're going to do to us, which is, I mean.
Do you have any like short pieces of wisdom or advice that you would say to a white person who you would say is coming from a place of fear or guilt or shame?
Instead of fear, try stepping outside that fear and get to know someone who is not white.
Yeah.
Because, in my family, there's a lot of integration of cultures.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean people married outside of whiteness.
Yeah.
And so that exposure, you learn differently. Oh, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that we've tried to share that with the children, with all of you children. You're not children, all of our children growing up. Taking them out of the country when we could, right? Let's learn a new language. Let's learn a few vocabulary in this language because we're going to go visit there.
Even on the smallest of budgets, you
tried.
made that.
Right.
We tried.
And another thing is to try to distinguish between, for the people that you're listening to that are stoking your fear, try to distinguish between those people who just haven't worked it out in their heads yet and those people who have an agenda. And the racism is not necessarily what's driving them. There's maybe some greed behind it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
what about your parents? Obviously, they had a different lens, but I also feel pretty lucky that I don't believe they were bigots either. I think they actually did a lot of advocacy work.
my parents or his parents?
Both of your parents.
I was going to say, your parents, your dad was in World War II, and I think being stationed overseas, that he developed a lot of empathy for a lot of different, he was very empathetic.
He was in the South Pacific.
Yeah.
He was part of the time working as a medic's aide in the hospital ship, which meant he was an orderly cleaning up after horrendous things. And then he was in Japan briefly, during the, I don't know what,
And Bonnie's
whatever you call
brothers,
it.
too. All three
Right.
were brothers.
Right.
You know,
Grandma
that
Bonnie's
changes
brothers.
people
Yeah.
when you are in the midst of, and you're fighting together.
Yep.
Not that that's a good way to learn about other people, but it definitely changed them. And I never encountered bigotry from them. You know, you can kind of hear it in some people. They'll just say something aside. Well, you know, when I was a student at Bradley, people would complain. We had very few African American population, but some students would complain about them in the dorms, saying, you know how they are. They stay up late. And I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Like
maybe they're not welcome.
Yeah.
Right? Or like you don't. I never knew a student who didn't stay up late. What are you talking about?
Well, and Grandma Bonnie, your mom, also was a teacher. Right?
And going back earlier in her life, they lived very poor. Grandpa, her dad was working as a farmer's helper. So
like a migrant farmer, a white migrant farmer. And my mom grew up very poor, very poor.
And she
in the West.
But she met Grandpa Art.
And she left home at 18 to go be a secretary in New York City, from Washington State to New York City.
How very musical theater.
I mean, she never did really tell that story of what prompted her to go so far, but more power to her. I guess that was the big city that everybody wanted to go to back in the 40s, you know.
Plus, and then she had lived on the coast, on the West Coast.
Yeah, might as well try the East
Tacoma
Coast.
and Seattle.
Some curiosity.
Yeah, and a farm, and very poor, and maybe she thought she could make her.
And then she met Grandpa.
They worked in the same company. Yeah, and then her grandmother back in Seattle was sick, and she went back home to take care of her, and my dad followed her. So romantic.
How romantic.
He quit his job. And
That's a Tom Hanks movie right there.
He was pretty romantic to her.
Yes.
Much to our chagrin.
They had 5 kids.
Yeah. And my dad's family, they rented farmland.
Yep.
In a situation that had some aspects of feudalism.
I mean, it's been a struggle for them for as long as we've known them.
But I mean, at the time that he was growing up, that the curve was allowing farmers in that situation to put aside money to, get out of debt and to build
community.
The community, was very interconnected.
We come from
traded work, they traded machinery.
We come from places where you are not alone.
I do not give a fuck if white people go extinct. And the reason why is because I'm not a white supremacist. I don't think that white skin is inherently better because I'm not a fucking idiot. I get so many messages like this, like, oh my God, like, you don't care about the white man. Like, white men are so oppressed and you don't care if we go extinct. I don't care. I don't care. I have dated people of all races. That has never been a factor for me. What is a factor is the person's vibe and personality. Most of the white men that I've encountered have been incredibly repulsive, racist, or disgusting, especially in small towns. It's not important to me to marry a white man to pass on my white genes. If I choose to have children and I have children with somebody with brown or black skin, the kid will still look like me. They will all share all of my same features. So honestly, I would probably be more upset about coffee going extinct than white people. I don't give a fuck. And it's not that I don't like the color of my skin. I love the way I look. I think I'm really cutie and just, I love my life. But I don't take pride in being white. There is a difference between self-love and white supremacy. I'm not a white supremacist, period.
All right, so America has never been a white country. Many people talk about America becoming white minority, and they say it as if it is something, sacred being lost, as if America's default identity is white. But the idea only exists because of centuries of propaganda. And this reminds me of a certain interview on CNN the other day when Elon Musk's father was being asked what he thinks about America becoming a white minority in about 20 years' time. And, he described America as it would go back to the jungle and it will lose good things. That is what we call centuries of propaganda, attaching goodness in America to whiteness. Before Europe even knew the existence of what we know as the American continent, that is South, Central, and North American continent. This land was home to many people, indigenous nations, civilizations, and societies, cultures that were violently then displaced, invaded, and displaced when they later discovered, these people. The only reason America was labeled as white country is because Europeans invaded, colonized, and mass immigrated into it. That made America look like, it's white because of the many white people, But these are just people that moved into it, And so when people complain about America becoming more diverse, because for me, what it feels like, white America becoming a minority, for me, it looks like America becoming more diverse, many other people that are not white having equal chances. So that is it becoming more diverse. The real question is, diverse in relation to what? To an identity that was built on stolen land. The white country myth has always been just that, a myth used to maintain control and dominance, And racists are actually afraid of the truth, So the couple in this video are trying to actually say something like racists are terrified, but what exactly are they afraid of? They are afraid of facing the truth that America was built on stolen land, stolen labor, stolen identities, erased cultures, and the truth that white supremacy is not natural. It is a manufactured concept of control and dominance, and that the truth that the system they created is now beginning to naturally collapse, because it is something that we cannot avoid. America becoming a white America becoming minority in a few years' time. So for many years, white supremacists forced other people, black people especially, to go through trauma, oppression, exclusion, injustice. Now they fear that a demographic shift, them becoming a minority, means payback time or loss of privilege, by the way, and but I think the irony is that most black and brown communities in this country are not really interested in revenge, in oppressing other people, in oppressing oppressing white people specifically. They're just interested in justice, equality, and fairness. So the panic really comes from guilt, the fear that of the world, the fear of the world they themselves really created. And the underlying, what is in the undertones here is the fact that white supremacy is actually sustained by greed. And I'd explain it. So a lot of people don't realize this. White supremacy was never truly about white people being superior. It was about white people protecting advantage, especially economic advantage, from colonialism to slavery to segregation to redlining. Each system wasn't just about race specifically. It's not about race. It's about resources. It's about power. And it's about wealth. The elites, and that's what is happening, and that's what is clear today in America. So the elites, they create a racial hierarchy so they could extract labor, land, and resources from everybody else, by the way, everybody else, while they go ahead to convince poor white people that, you know, they are better than non-white people simply for being white, you know. And so here is actually the tragic part to it. Poor white people, or poor white Americans, are victims to the same system they fight to defend. That lies to them that just by simply being white, they are better, you know, because the greed at the top means nothing trickles down to them. That's why they're actually poor white people, despite all the privilege of being white. White supremacy doesn't exist to uplift all white people in generally. It exists to protect classes, you know, a small class of wealthy white people who rely on division and pitting people against each other. Now telling poor white folks that the problem is black and brown people, you know. And so racism is actually a distraction, is a means of distraction. Greed is the engine. So when you're all distracted, they can steal from it, you know. So reality, the coming reality is America will reflect its true identity, is reflecting on its own true identity. America becoming a white minority in a few years' time is not a threat. It's natural correction of history, you know. It's America finally reflecting what it always was, a land of many people, not one race. Probably that's healthier for America, you know. The future America will not, you know, the future of America will not be defined by white identity, because it never truly was to begin with. The future, you know, America will be the future America will be shaped by the communities who build it, who suffered under it, and who actually survived the suffering. The future America is a place where the truth is no longer optional, but is something that every single person, even the so-called white privilege, will now have to reckon with, will have to accept. And once you understand that, the fear some people have suddenly will just look, you know, ridiculous. So America is changing, and there is no reversing of it. You know, it's the bigger truth. You know, it's something to accept. The myth of white America was always temporary, and it was always going to collapse. What we are seeing now is not the fall of America; it's the fall of a lie. It's the fall of, you know, the falls of propaganda. And when the lies collapse, you know, of course, the truth finally gets enough space to breathe. Yeah, so I don't know what you think about this video. Do share with me your thoughts in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next video.